Last October, when it started getting chilly, I switched over my summer and winter clothes and got rid of a couple of pairs of jeans that didn't fit. But I said, this is nice denim material. Maybe I'll just cut off the legs and save it. And then I started thinking about the old Singer sewing machine that I had in its case and I hadn't pulled out in years. And so my sewing journey began. So this apron was one of the first things that I made. And if you look closely, I don't really know how to sew a straight line, do I? These were the jeans that I cut off. And the bottom part is, I believe, a skirt, curtain panel. And then I made these straps out of the jeans too. So they go up from the top and they crisscross in the back. And then they come through the belt loops and tie. Let's see. Now, if you look at the back, I didn't finish these seams, so this will eventually start fraying, so I need to do something about that. So that was my first attempt at an apron. And this was my second attempt at an apron. So I used some of that denim, and as you can see, I got a little bit better at sewing straight lines. And I tried to make this like a little cummerbund. This is just a little half apron. All right, this was an old sheet. All right, so I have queen size beds. So I got rid of the full sheets and added them to my fabric stash. And then this was the edge of the sheet that I sewed on the edge. So this is just a little half apron that ties in the back. Now again, I have to cut off all these strings and finish this. See, it's gonna fray. So this is before I really knew that you're supposed to finish your seams. This was the next of my makes. And my inspiration for this was all the moms out there who've made pillowcase dresses for their little girls. And I had this sheet sitting around. So what I did is I reused the bottom as trim. I gathered the top on both sides and I added ties. I've actually worn this, which is why it's such a wrinkly mess. All right, but in the process, I learned that you should finish your edges. So without realizing that you're supposed to like zigzag both sides, I zigzagged the entire seam, which is kind of cute. The next thing I made, I'm absolutely in love with. I've been wearing this to death. I'm calling it my jalapeno hoodie. All right, and what I did is I took an existing hoodie that I had, and this fleece material my daughter left behind that she didn't want. And I traced my hoodie onto a piece of packing paper and then sewed out the pieces. All right, so I'm surprised this fits so comfortably. All right, but it's only a two-way stretch. And where I goofed is that I made the sleeves stretch lengthwise where I should have made them stretch widthwise. But you know what? I made the sleeves the right width, so it's not noticeable at all. And then I impressed myself with sewing the zipper. Okay, this is a take apart zipper. All right, and the only other zipper I've ever sewed before this in my life was in grade school, home economics class, and I sewed it crooked. So all these years I've been afraid of zippers, whereas this was very, very simple, and it really came out cute. Now, I did not have a string for the hoodie, but I had a piece of gross grain ribbon lying around, which seems to be working just fine. And the hoodie is really cute. Can you see the hoodie in the back here? All right, now this material doesn't really fray, but I did finish the edges. See, there's the sleeve. Now the bottom, I had some ribbon, okay? And it looked like it folded right in the middle, nice. So I used that as a bottom edge, and I thought for sure this is gonna fray in the wash. Well, this has been washed a couple times. Like I said, I've been wearing it to death. And this lace really is holding up nicely. See that? And the nice thing too is that I made myself these two huge pockets on both sides. So just like a regular hoodie, but I made seam pockets rather than an envelope. Now what I didn't do right was I did not cut off the selvage. I used the selvage in the seam, which if you look close, you can see that, but nobody's going to look that close. So far, this is my favorite piece. The next thing I did was actually an upcycle. Okay, I had both of these little sundresses in my closet already, but they were full length. So what I did is I started with this purple one, which is a little bit smaller. All right, and it's nice in the summertime, just when I'm like hanging around by the pool or in the yard. But I wouldn't wear this out because it's a little bit risque at the top. What I need a full bust adjustment, let's put it that way. So what I did is I just cut down the bottom where this print was on the bottom too, you'll see. And then I hemmed it, which I shouldn't have done. You see this hem is crappy. All right, this material does not fray. So you'll see on this other one, I did not hem it. I just cut it down. There was no hem on this. Now this one, like I said, is a little bit bigger, so I'm not afraid to wear this one if I gotta run to the grocery store or something real quick in the summer when it's super hot. So I'll wear this one just as is. This one I might need to fix this hem a little bit or make it into a top. Continuing on with the upcycling, this is the bottom part of that black halter one that I took down. I cut down and I messed up the hem. Well, this is the bottom part of it. All right, so what I did is I sewed that piece onto a shirt that I already had. The top has lace and it has these little butterfly sleeves. And the length that it came to made it like this drop waist. So it's like super, super comfortable. And it comes to like T-length. So I could put on a pair of flip-flops or sandals and wear that to church. Okay, now we're in my sewing room and we're going a little bit out of order now because I just wanted to continue with those sundresses. This is the bottom of that orange one. Okay. So the hem from the bottom was already there, so I didn't have to do anything with that. And what I did is I gathered the top. I gathered it and then I used that lace edging again. That really matched nicely. And then I sewed on some satin ribbon for the arms. And the way the pattern falls, it's very flattering on. The front hangs a little bit lower than the back. And I'll definitely get some use out of that. I could see myself wearing that with a pair of black bike shorts that I already have. And doing some gardening. So now we're jumping back in time a little bit because I found this thrifted tablecloth with my girlfriend Rhonda. And I thought it would make a lovely holiday skirt. I actually had a holiday skirt in mind when we went thrift shopping that day. And I saw that tablecloth. I says, oh, it looks really simple to make a skirt. I saw these tutorials about a simple gathered waist skirt. Well, I gathered the skirt and I put it on and I says, I look like a tent in it. So I ended up throwing it to the side. The material is actually very thin. I made a matching scarf. So let me hold up the scarf so you can see how thin this material is. Okay. Here's the scarf. I fringed both edges of it. All right, so you can kind of see through this. It's pretty sheer. So what I did is I had lined the skirt. I found a thrifted valance of this beautiful jacquard material. Can you see that? It's like a maroon rust color. And it has all these florals. So I actually lined the whole skirt. And then when I gathered it to the waist, it looked awful. So what I ended up doing is pleating it. And I matched up the pattern. So all these little pleats fall so nicely. All right. And then as I pleated it and gathered it, I was like, okay, if I do that on the whole thing, how am I going to close it? Well, I had decided I was going to try to make it a wrap skirt, so I had tied these ties on. All right, but then how are you going to open it up? Now I had these fringes. I wanted to keep the fringes. So what I did is I made a lapped zipper. So there's a zipper here. So here's my second zipper. And it's not crooked. All right. In fact, let me unzip the whole thing so you can see inside. It's completely lined. It's all lined. So there's no raw edges. So actually this ended up being a very well-made skirt. The problem was I finished it right after New Year's, right at New Year's. So I had nowhere to wear it. So it's going to hang in my closet for a year. And then we'll see. I kept the fringe at the bottom too, but I've got to brush that all out. It's all kind of ratty. And what do you want for a thrifted tablecloth? Now, this dress was quite the journey. Okay. I told you that I made that sweat jacket and I absolutely loved it. Well, I was watching, people, how they make their own bodice blocks or slopers. And so I was watching a girl called Thoughtfully Sew or Sewn Thoughtfully. No, Thoughtful Creativity. That's her channel. And so I tried drafting my own sloper and kind of basing it off the sweat jacket top too. But I made it extra long. Now, in my mind, I thought that I was going to make a top like I had in high school. It was actually my mother's. It was like a peasant blouse. And this is nothing like what I originally thought. All right. So the bodice has a V-neck. All right. And what I did is I made interfacing for it. So it's interfaced. So that falls nicely. Now, when I first put it on, though, I was trying to sew darts. And they did not work. They were falling crooked and lopsided and everything else. It looked awful. So I was like, well, what else could I do? So after I got it together and I got the sleeves on, sleeves were perfect. This was the same pattern I used for the sweat jacket for the sleeves. All right, but I did have to make it a little smaller on the shoulders. All right, the sweat jacket, the sleeves come down a little bit. It's more of a drop shoulder on that. So I had to make those smaller. And then the back, I just did a rolled hem. All right, and the back is just simple and plain. Oh, let's hang it up so you can see. See, the back is just simple and plain. And it comes just above the knees. So I think this would be perfect in the fall with a pair of black heels. So in the front, what I did is, because it was falling kind of funky, I took out the darts. And what I did is I just made a pinch pleat in front on both sides. I put it on, and I put a pinch pleat in front, sewed it, and then I had these old buttons, and added the buttons. Now I'm about to show you my favorite nightgown that I've been wearing to death for probably close to a decade. But this was at the neckline. And as you can see, it's falling apart. But I did have these old doilies lying around, and one of which has a big old stain on it that I'm never going to use. So you see this pretty embroidery, applique, and the edges. Well, that edge right there, I cut off. And I reused it. And it fits perfect on that nightgown now. So let's see, maybe I'll get another decade's use out of my favorite nightgown. And last but not least, you're looking at my sewing machine with the thread broken. So I have to restring it again. The thread keeps breaking on this, okay? What I'm trying to do is sew the edges on this material and make a tablecloth for downstairs. Now, it's funny. This material, okay, it's a nice, heavy, heavy cotton. But it's not something you could ever make any clothes out of, okay? Where I got this material, you're going to laugh, is when I had my lumpectomy, when I had breast cancer. Okay. They wrapped me up in 2 blankets like this. Now it's too stiff for even using as a sheet again, okay? But that said, I think it's nice material for a tablecloth. So what I did is I measured my table downstairs and I cut it, and it actually ripped very nicely. I only had to cut the edge. And then it ripped very nicely. But the problem is, can you see this? Okay, this weave is very, very loose. All right, so I'm going to actually do another hem. I hemmed it once with a zigzag stitch, and then I'm going to fold it over again and hem it, okay, before I put it on the table. So I've got to restring the machine. It was giving me some trouble yesterday, but part of the problem is that I've never really learned how to sew. I bought this Singer sewing machine probably back in the late 80s, maybe early 90s, when I first bought my house, mainly for making curtains and stuff like that, you know, because I was on a budget and didn't have a lot of money, and I got a good deal from Ames department store. Do you remember Ames department store? It's a Singer, and it's a mechanical, and it does the basic stitches. In fact, all I really use is the straight stitch and the zigzag. I should probably play with these other ones at some point too. But it does the job. I used it a lot for like hemming my daughter's school uniforms back in the day, and I've made some curtains and stuff like that, but I never really learned how to sew. The only sewing instruction I had, like I said, was in 7th grade, and I made the skirt with the crooked zipper that I never wore, so I was embarrassed. But I'm having a lot of fun with this little hobby, and then since it's New England and it's too cold to go outside and garden, I'm staying out of mischief. I know this looks like a mess, okay? This is actually my grandfather's desk, but I also use it as a cutting table, and I don't cut directly on it. I have a couple of cutting mats if I use the rotary cutter. But that said, you can see over here, here's that paper that I was using. All right, and I've been trying to make a back, this is the back bodice sloper. All right, it's been working pretty good, this one. And the sleeve works really well too. This is the one I used for the dress. It's all rolled up. This is the most recent one I'm using. All right, this is where I've tried to do darts for the first time. I'm working on this little shirt here. It's not on the hanger. It's a big mess. In fact, I've got to fix the seam because when I sewed down the dart, I sewed the dart crooked. But this side here, I sewed it right. And these 2 darts are nice. So I'm working on this little top here, which is some more of that sheet material. Nice little summer top. I'll show you this when I'm done with it. I'm still working on it. But anyways, I made this sloper here. Fold it. All right, I cut this out, and I cut this out with the dart. I'm going to try a princess seam. All right, and I made these 2 pieces from, if you watch online, some people use duct tape, and they tape their bodies up, and then they cut it off and make a pattern out of it. So I'm on my own here, so it was kind of hard to do. So I used plastic wrap and packing tape to make this pattern. And so far, it's working really well. I'm just not real good at darts. So I got, finally, after like 3 tries, I got the darts right on this one. I took off the bottom dart. I had a bottom dart too. I took off the bottom dart only because I says, you know, I might have to sew a zipper again, and I just want to do a nice little cotton casual top for the summer. But what I want to try more than that is to get rid of the darts entirely and see if I could sew a princess seam. So that's what's coming up next. And you might have noticed this material sitting here too. This is some curtains that I haven't used in a while that I think kind of goes nicely with this material. So I might make some nice little butterfly sleeves out of that for this top. We'll see. It's a work in progress. And what's nice about sewing is you might have a vision in your mind, but the material might show itself to do something else, like that dress. I have more of that beautiful jacquard material, so I still might make a peasant blouse out of it at some point too. I'd get more use out of that than a dress, actually. All right, that's it for now. This is what gardeners do in the wintertime. They sew instead of sew. But if you think about it, I didn't really know how to garden years ago either. I learned how to garden like I'm learning how to sew from watching YouTubers. All right, so from 1 Yard Revolution and learning how to garden to, let's see, Catherine Sews and Anastasia Sews and Thoughtful Creativity and all these people doing vintage stuff like Bernadette Banner and Morgan Donner and Rachel Maksy. And, you can learn something from watching all of these YouTubers. So thank you for that. Maybe this will inspire somebody who doesn't know how to sew like me. And what's Joey doing while I'm doing all this sewing, you might ask? Well, it looks like he's taking a cat nap. Since the winter came, he stays inside a lot now. And he sleeps most of the afternoon just like a baby. Huh, Joe? And while Joey sleeps the afternoon away, I'll continue with some sewing projects and watching YouTube videos of wonderful makers on YouTube, like Gertie and Charm Patterns, and all the free patterns that you can get from Mood Fabrics, and all those other wonderful makers out there who have inspired me. Thank you.